Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it is time for part 4 of the Monday Q&As. So let's get to the first question. Is biofeedback effective for relief of stress? For those who don't know what biofeedback is, the most common use that most people are aware of is in therapy to help people deal with stress and anxiety. And it's basically to where you are hooked up to machines that monitor things like your heart rate, your body temperature, your rate of breathing, things like that, and you are taught by oftentimes listening to different tapes and things of how to control those sensors and everything. And by learning to control those sensors, you're actually learning to control these functions in your body. And it can be a viable tool if you get really stressed, you get stress attacks, you get panic attacks, anxiety attacks. If you've had biofeedback, it can be a useful tool for lowering that stress. But for the average person who doesn't have those issues, it may not. Now, it is used for a lot of other things. There are certain types of athletes who can benefit from it, but it tends to be things to where keeping a low heart rate and a low respiration rate becomes beneficial. Things like precision shooting. So someone who shoots in 1,000-yard competition in the Olympics would benefit from biofeedback classes. Military snipers could benefit from biofeedback classes. Anything to where you really need to control those things. But for the average Joe, probably not, but possibly. But again, if you suffer from panic attacks, anxiety, things like that, biofeedback training can be a useful tool there for lowering your stress levels and keeping your overall stress level lower in your life for that person. All right, next question. How much does micronutrient deficiency hinder muscle gains? I don't necessarily mean radical deficiencies like a starving person in Africa, but if you have low iron levels or low vitamin B1 levels, will you notice slower progress? Generally, people who are geared towards athletic things or training are very, very unlikely to be deficient unless they've gone on an insanely restrictive diet that cuts out gigantic food groups. Because usually they're focusing on mostly whole foods. And if you eat a diversity of foods, you're really unlikely to develop a deficiency in anything. Particularly with the type of caloric needs that most of us who are athletic have to take in. But assuming you are, it's probably not a very large deficiency. So if it's a very small deficiency, the odds are that it's going to significantly affect your muscle growth is pretty slim. It could theoretically, if your energy levels are lower because of some deficiencies or you're not able to train as hard, yeah, it could definitely affect your progress. But as far as the actual muscle growth process, you would have to be fairly deficient in something for it to really be noticeable and measurable. So it's pretty unlikely, other than your overall energy and health, which can in turn affect your workouts, possibly recovery a bit, things like that. So in general, it's a good idea to try not to have those by eating a fair amount of fruits and vegetables, eating mostly whole foods, eating a varied diet where you're changing up what you're eating from day to day would be a wise idea just to cover your bases there. And even some of that comes down to just being healthy, and your overall health is probably more important than gaining that extra ounce of muscle per year. All right, next question. Considering your logical, rational, and informed views on diet and everything else, pretty much, are you an atheist? That's a good question. I've addressed this a bit before. I am personally agnostic, and a lot of people say, well, an agnostic is still probably an atheist. I don't consider myself to be a true atheist. And the reason for that is I try to keep a very open mind about these things. I don't reject the possibility that there's a higher power, that there's a creator of the universe. I don't reject the possibility that spiritual things exist that we don't understand. However, when I have the absence of evidence for some of those things, and I will agree that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. But if I don't have evidence for something, I'm not necessarily going to just jump up and believe it automatically without very, very good reasons. And so that being said, I don't consider myself a believer in any religion, but I am open-minded to the possibility. And I accept it as a possibility, but I think the situation that I'm in, at least at this point in my life, and I think the majority of people out there, that we are incapable of knowing for sure either way on these matters. And anyone who tells you that they're certain, whether they're religious or they're an atheist, that is irrational to be 100% certain when we don't have enough real evidence to make that type of choice. So for me, I keep a very open-minded skepticism, and I consider myself an agnostic. And if I saw enough evidence one day that any specific religion or spiritual view was correct, I would probably be open to embracing it. But at this time, I don't see the evidence to do so. So I don't. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.